So this is the third in the series around learning to fly. This is a tricky one because I haven't actually got any video. It was tricky. I couldn't really use my phone in the aircraft, and for my first lesson, this is the first real lesson, it was really important to concentrate on the flying. So I'd just like to reflect in this on the differences between the flying and the flight simulator, and maybe just give you some reflections on my first flying lesson. So I'd read up on the lesson beforehand. It was really great. The instructor took me in a briefing room. We went through all the various control surfaces of the aircraft, what they may or may not do. We had a small aircraft model where he took me through how the forces act on the aircraft. And in this particular flying lesson, we're just going to test how the aircraft responds at different speeds and at different power settings. And a lot of it is around just getting a feel for how the aircraft responds in a particular situation, a bit like driving a car, so that it becomes more intuitive. So again, just to reinforce what I said in the earlier video, it really underlined that taxiing, I was allowed to taxi the aircraft down, is very, very different, cannot be simulated on the simulator. So that is probably the single biggest difference. We had real focus on the checklists. I won't be doing air traffic control just yet. In terms of the takeoff, I didn't do the takeoff. Again, it was quite a windy day, but the takeoff was very similar to on the simulator. It kicks slightly to the left as on the simulator. It takes off around the same speed, so I was really quite impressed. In terms of the flight surfaces and how they react, so there were a number of different segments to this session. So the first one was simply to do a work sequence, so left, right, up, down at different speeds. So first off at normal speed, secondly at slower speed, and because the air going over the aircraft surfaces is much slower, the aircraft responds very much slower. And the third one was from a slow speed at full power, just doing the same work cycle. And what I found most interesting was that because of the way the width of the propeller blows down over the tail and the rear control surfaces, how they respond. So the aircraft will go up and down and will respond to the tail. It will yaw much more effectively than it will with the air-alongs, because the air is not going over the wings as fast as it's speeding up. That isn't actually as obvious. I tried that in the simulator, and that really is something that is very specific, I think, to flying the real plane. The second thing we did was around trimming. So the instructor untrimmed, so made the aircraft kind of unstable, and then I had to trim it again. So the big thing to remember about this is where you're pulling back on the yoke. If you're pulling back on the yoke, you need back pressure. Then you roll the trim wheel backwards. If you're pushing forward on the yoke, so you need to put forward pressure, then you push the trim wheel forward. And the adjustments are twofold. So initially coarse adjustments, so really fast adjustments to get it close to where it is stable again, and then finer adjustments as you are more or less back in trim. So forward wheel rolls forward, backward trim wheel rolls backward, coarse adjustments initially, and then finer adjustments to trim the aircraft. I would say this is another one of the big differences between the real flight and the simulator. What I tend to do, I realise, is I tend to use the trim wheel more so for adjusting the aircraft in the simulator, which is completely incorrect. So what you need to do is to aviate first. So pull back on the yoke, fly the aircraft at the appropriate level, then feel where the pressure is on the yoke, and finally trim to stabilize the aircraft. Overall, I would say it was absolutely brilliant. I loved the flying. We did a debrief afterwards in the classroom, just to go through what had actually happened in the flight, how the aircraft had reacted. I took away some homework to prepare for the next lesson. And the two things that I would say that I realized I didn't do as well as I could do. So these are lessons that I learned. So when the instructor says your aircraft, you really need to say, I have the aircraft, or my aircraft, in response. And I didn't do that every time. So it's really, really important that it's really clear who is in charge of the aircraft, who is flying the aircraft at any particular time. And the second thing was I couldn't really hear when the instructor was talking to air traffic control. So I just need to ask about how we can adjust the volume in the aircraft so that I can hear that, so that when I need to do it sometime soon, that I will be able to do that. So that's all I've got for you in this video. I hope that was useful. I look forward to sharing my future lessons and my journey to become a qualified pilot. And if you liked it, please like it. If you want to see more videos, then please subscribe. Any comments, really, really welcome. I love reading them, and I'll respond to any comments. So I'll catch you next time. In the aircraft, you really need to concentrate